Pretty Dece, here we go. Facebook.com/Pretty Dece Show. It's time to geek out with Josh, your host.
What's up, everybody? I'm Josh Meek, the Uber Geek. Welcome to Pretty Dece, the short show about movies, comics, games, and all the pop culture in between. And we are focusing on the world of video games today, because Nintendo put out a bunch of news in a Nintendo Direct about the upcoming Pokemon games. That is Pokemon Sword and Pokemon Shield. We now know they come out November 15th, and I'm pretty hyped about these games, especially after this first look at the games today. So I want to break down kind of what we found out, what we saw, some of the things we knew going in, and talk about the things that I'm excited about. First of all, this game looks really, really fantastic. It is not just a slightly better looking Pokemon like we got in the past. This is a full transition into an actual console, and not just a handheld, but a console here, and you can really tell it. The interior designs in the world when you're inside are very detailed, much more than we've ever seen before. The new camera angle lets you check them out a lot more than you previously could. And the vistas that you see outside are crazy cool. It's unlike anything we've ever seen in a Pokemon game before. Really, really neat to check those out. And you have full camera control. That's the insane thing. When you are in the wildlands that they're calling, or wild area that they're calling it, which is the area between cities, you have full camera control, move your camera around, spin it around your hero. It's almost like you're playing like Breath of the Wild instead of Pokemon at that point. So really, really cool, and it's neat seeing something that feels very familiar because it is a Pokemon game and Pokemon are running around and you're having battles, while also at the same time it feels incredibly foreign and new and exciting because of the new look and because of the new camera and the new movement that you see going on both in your Pokemon and in your character. There's a lot of crazy new stuff in this game that parts of it feel very familiar. So it's really exciting and really, really cool. Of course, we knew about the starter Pokemon before. We have Grookey, Scorbunny, and Sobble, and we did find out about some other new Pokemon as well. So the new Pokemon that we found out about, there is Wooloo, who is a sheep, and is probably the coolest one. People are probably going to be pretty excited about our good buddy Wooloo. We also found out about Gossifleur, who is a flower, and Gossifleur evolves into Eldegoss, and Eldegoss is kind of lame. It's a Cotton Bloom Pokemon. I'm assuming it's the second evolution. We'll get to see the third when the game actually comes out, where it turns back into a gigantic flower, because Eldegoss is very much, there are seeds and it looks like it's getting ready to grow but hasn't yet. And we found out about Dreadnought, which is my personal favorite of the new Pokemon that they showed. It is this big, awesome turtle, and I absolutely love him. He stomps around. He's got this awesome look to him. And then we saw Corviknight, which is a crow Pokemon, basically. He looks like a big, gigantic crow, and they describe him as the taxi to fly you back to places that you've been before. Overall, from these Pokemon, from the starters that we've seen before and now these new Pokemon, they're doing a really fantastic job, I think, on the design. That's one of my most critical things about some of the previous Pokemon games, was that the Pokemon designs weren't holding up to their standards that they'd set way back in Red and Blue and then Gold and Silver and so on. They kind of been lacking, I feel like. And these feel a more return to form. Now, obviously, they're picking out some of the coolest ones that they think you're going to like as they show you the first ones. But I have high hopes for the rest of the game, because these handful are really, really cool. They look like they could have come straight out of Red and Blue or Gold and Silver. So it has me as an old school Pokemon fan pretty excited. Now, these new Pokemon can do new things as well. And one of the new things that they have talked about that is seemingly playing a big part of the game is called Dynamaxing. And that's a pretty dumb name. But the end result is basically your Pokemon turns gigantic. In an actual battle, your Pokemon can Dynamax once per battle, and it goes away after 3 turns. And yes, it seems kind of wild and dumb, but I absolutely love the visuals that they have for it. Your Pokemon which is normally, in front of you and typically small, depending on the Pokemon that you have, grows to this monstrous size, is like Godzilla size, stomps around the battlefield, giant rocks fly everywhere. Most of them have these like massive attacks that rain down from the sky and like destroy the surrounding area all around them. It really feels like you got dropped into, as I said, like a giant Godzilla fight, or maybe you're in the middle of like a Power Rangers episode suddenly. It's very cool. We've never seen anything like it before in Pokemon games, and I'm really excited to get to see the Dynamax version of all kinds of different Pokemon. Now, going along with the ability to Dynamax, all the gyms in the game will revolve around Dynamaxing Pokemon. So all the battles take place in these really awesome looking, huge stadiums with an audience. So it feels much more like you're going to this like televised event, like you're doing this sporting event on TV, than just kind of wandering in the local gym where people are working out and then fighting somebody. So it has a very different feel to it. And the gyms and the stadiums have to be so large so that the Dynamax Pokemon can fit. So that's cool. We're going back to a more traditional gym system, and we'll get to see some really crazy stuff as we revolve around Dynamaxing all of these Pokemon. And Dynamaxing comes into play in one more key feature of this game, and this is the biggest change, I think, to this game, gameplay-wise, versus other Pokemon, and that is they are adding raids, 4-player raids to this game. This is, probably taking inspiration from Pokemon Go, which added raids as well. Basically, when you are in the wild area, which is the area between towns where you encounter wild Pokemon, you will sometimes have areas where you can join up with 4 other human players and challenge Dynamax Pokemon to these special battles. Now, these Pokemon remain in their giant Dynamax form the entire time. They have special powers. They can do insane stuff that normal Pokemon can't do. And if you beat them, you have a chance to catch that Dynamaxed Pokemon. And they say that some Pokemon can only be caught after being defeated in one of these max raid battles. So that's where I kind of have a love-hate relationship with this idea. On one hand, it sounds really cool, and it seems like it might even add some replayability to be able to team up with your friends and take down these Pokemon and maybe get Pokemon with cool abilities or that might be more rare. But I don't like the idea of Pokemon being entirely locked behind raids. I feel like all that means is that in the future, when I come back to this game years in the future, as I do with Pokemon games, I simply won't be able to get those Pokemon because I won't be able to reliably get enough people around to complete the raid. So it makes me worry about the future replayability of this game. But for the first time, when everyone's playing it new, it seems like it'll be a really cool, really fun feature. So I hope it is as fun as it sounds. Now, when you are in the wild area that they keep referencing, a lot of people were questioning with Pokemon Let's Go that came out, what are the battles going to be like? Because Let's Go didn't have any random encounters. You would see all the Pokemon, and you could choose to run into them or not to initiate the fight. This seems like it has both versions. So it has the random battles that you don't know are coming when you walk into the tall grass, as you would expect from a classic Pokemon game. However, the wild area also features Pokemon just walking around in it that you can see with your eyes, just like Let's Go had. So it seems like you can hit the random encounters, or you can just run up to a Pokemon that you see in the wild. They also seem to indicate that the Pokemon you see just walking around and wandering in the world would change depending on the time of day and the weather that is happening. So it could be that the Pokemon wandering around are maybe the ones that are going to be more rare or more situational. So when you see them, you do want to run up and start attacking them because you might not get another chance. So I think that's a good medium ground. It makes the world feel much more full and more rich and more lived in, that you see these Pokemon existing in the world and not just popping up out of nowhere. But you do have the more traditional Pokemon battles that are random to make the people who are used to that system happy. So I think that's really cool. I like how that's going. We did get a little taste of the characters in the game as well. Your rival is named Hop. He's the brother of a famous trainer. And I think most interestingly, the Pokemon professor, that's a trope of the Pokemon games, is actually a woman in this game. She is an elderly lady professor. She is studying the Dynamax phenomenon here in this region. And she'll be clearly starting off your journey. And it seems like you will be also teaming up with her granddaughter, Sonia. And finally, we did get a taste of the legendaries for this series, Sword and Shield. So they're both dogs. They are legendary dog Pokemon. One of them carries a sword in his mouth, and one of them has a shield for a head, essentially. His head forms a shield. I think these guys look super, super cool. The sword dog is named Zacian, and the shield dog is named Zamazenta. So obviously, that will determine which version you buy, which of those two legendary Pokemon that you want to obtain. In typical Pokemon fashion, you'll be locked out of the other, depending on which version that you get. So I think that's cool. It seems like they're reeling back in the legendary Pokemon a bit. Obviously, it went a little crazy. Pokemon that were quite literally gods and insane things. This is back to maybe more of a classical legendary, where it's just a very powerful, unique Pokemon that, roams the earth, that isn't an all-knowing being. They did hint that they would be involved in the story as well, instead of just being a random thing that you encounter, so you can look for them being included in some way. So that's about everything that they told us about Pokemon Sword and Shield. As you can tell, I'm pretty hyped about this game. November 15th is coming up quick, and we are going to get our hands on these games pretty soon, and I'm really excited for a really, truly next-gen Pokemon experience. So that's going to do it for Pretty Dece for today. Thanks very much for joining me to talk about Pokemon Sword and Shield. And, I'm pretty excited. There's a lot that's going on in these games that we haven't seen before. They're adding a lot to the Pokemon formula without seemingly breaking it. So that's always the concern. So far, so good. And I can't wait to find out more and see more Pokemon that are included in this game. If you want to check out past episodes of Pretty Dece, you can do that by heading on over to prettydeceshow.com. You can also hit me up on YouTube, youtube.com/prettydece, and find me on social media. Hit me up. Let me know what you think of all of the details so far of Sword and Shield, what you like, what you don't like. You can find me on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at Pretty Dece Show.